This red lipstick seemed like a good idea 20 minutes ago. My braid is totally tucked into my shirt. That's embarrassing. Hi everybody! Today I'm going to do a review on the book The Infinite Sea by Yancey. I just finished this today. I have a lot of things to say about it, so let's get right on started. Disclaimer, this is a sequel to another book, The Fifth Wave, so if you have not read that one, this will be a spoiler-free review. However, due to the nature of this being a second book, there might be spoilery themes. I'm never going to come out and say, this character dies. So just be aware that if you've not read this one, then there might be like tiny hints of things that happen. I'm going to leave out a synopsis entirely because spoilers. The notes that I took on this are in chronological order, so there'll be good and bad mixed in as we go along. I already said let's get started, but let's get started for real. So immediately I was thinking as I was reading the first 50 pages of this book, this is really not lenient toward readers that just finished the first book and or don't remember what happens. I read the first book only a couple of months ago and still found myself a little bit confused at things that they were describing in the beginning of this one. I know a lot of books will start out so that they give you a whole backstory of things that happened in the previous book, and this lacked that. So definitely if you're planning on reading this soon, brush up on the ending of The Fifth Wave. And for people who haven't read either of them, perfect. Marathon them. Another thing that the first book also did that continued on to this book, quite annoyingly, is that it's a dual perspective book. It's told in third and first perspective in different people's voices. This is a good idea. I like the way it's told like that. However, it does not label the chapters, so you don't know who's narrating it, and you kind of have to puzzle it together yourself. This is cool on one hand because it's kind of mysterious, but then on another hand it's a little bit annoying because I get 10 pages into something thinking it's one character and it's a different one. I think the book would lose something if it did say the names of the character that's narrating, so I wouldn't necessarily change that. I would just suggest be very open when starting new chapters because you don't know who it is a lot of the time. One thing that I really liked about this series, I just mentioned in one of my videos how I love The Fifth Wave because it's a really realistic representation of how a sci-fi apocalypse would actually happen. This continues with this book because they make Twitter and Facebook references and they're talking about it, and it's just so cool to read a book that's like, wow, Twitter. I use that every day. So I love how Yancey incorporates that into the book where it's realistic even though there are aliens and stuff happening. The number one issue I had with this book was that the way the book is written and executed is extremely confusing to the reader. Specifically, there are lots of scenes where stuff happens and you aren't following it very well, and then they move on. You're just left like, what just happened? An example I wrote down for this is that there's a scene where an airplane flies overhead and the person who's narrating is like, oh my gosh, there's an airplane, I have to kill myself. And you don't get an explanation like, who's in the plane? Why do you have to kill yourself? Why can't you just hide? I wish we were given more of some kind of a notification, like this is the bad guy, now we hide. The whole book is written like this, and it's very hard to grasp. Again, the first book did that quite often, but you were able to still kind of keep up. But this one I found myself really not being able to keep up. A lot of things are underexplained. It feels like a classic, like you have to interpret it yourself. And recently on Twitter I just saw someone ranting a whole thing about how writers should never make the reader interpret something. They're literally giving them the material, they need to be the one explaining it. And I agree with that, especially with this book, because I wanted to love this book. I was just so lost a lot of the time. Something that saved this for me was that the characters in this story are just fantastic. I was gonna say amazing and fantastic, so the word fan-mazing almost just came out of my mouth. Cassie, the main character, is absolutely one of my favorite heroines in the entire universe. She's so snarky and brave, and just everything about her and a lot of the other characters is so great. They just know how to move a plot along. They're completely different people, but the way they interact is so interesting and can be funny. I didn't see so much of character development in this book like you would see in a sequel normally, but I still loved the characters the same that I did in the first book. And even the characters that I found myself not loving in the first book, in this book you get to know them better. So it's really worked out in the end, and I still love every one of these characters. Annoying thing about this book is that we're at that part of the series where the characters that are doing relationshipy stuff start getting really annoying because they're starting to sacrifice their safety for their relationship, and it's very angering for them to be like, okay, we have a plan, let's do this, and then someone gets hurt, and said love interest is like, no, we have to change the plan to accommodate for my love, and and that's pretty much in every series. It didn't really take away anything from the book, but I definitely had a few hair-pulling moments when I'm like, this could be over if you just stopped. One thing that happened in this book was we got a lot of background information on a couple of the characters, which I really enjoyed and I'm so grateful for. It's so nice to just see where they're from and why they are the way they are after the apocalypse and just what happened to their families, so I found it really nice to get some sort of explanation on that front. This is more of a reader issue, so it's not an actual flaw about the book, but I love Cassie. I said this earlier. Cassie was the main character in the fifth wave and the majority of the book followed her. So going into this book, the majority of the book is written from a different character's perspective. I don't know if it's a spoiler to say who, but the focus of the book didn't really feel like Cassie. I was really upset about that because I have such an attachment to Cassie that I wanted to see a lot of her actions and what they were doing and stuff like that, and it just was with a different person, and that really bugged me. Just a little cheat, first of all. You can tell how many times it changes perspectives because each time it gives you this page and then from then on it's a different character perspective. So this huge chapter at the end, I was really wanting it to be Cassie's perspective just because she's my favorite character, but it wasn't. On one hand, I was very annoyed. On another hand, I really got to see more of that character narrating and got to know more of them, so it really helped kind of even out the playing field of who I liked and who I just felt was an okay character. So just to clarify, Cassie is still my favorite. I still wish she had more screen time or page time, but now I have a better appreciation than Mom is walking in my room. Kind of an overview of how I felt like this book was in consideration to a second book in a series. It just seemed very standstill. A lot of things happened. It was very action-packed. I did read this extremely fast, probably in like 3 sittings. I loved it because it was so much action and just things moved along very quickly. However, in the end, it seemed like no progress was made. I glanced at the Goodreads reviews of this before I did this review, and a ton of people are saying it was good, but what was the point of this book? But if you're coming at it from the standpoint where you want to see more action happening, you want to see the bad guys going down, nothing of that sort happens. And so it almost feels like you could have put these 300 pages at the end of the fifth wave and it would just be a continuation of the original story. Nothing new was added except some informational things. From here, I'm not sure where the series is gonna go, and I guess that's what's confusing me most, is that we really didn't get any setup for what else is going to happen. Of course, I'm gonna read the third book when it comes out because I love these characters, I'm so invested into the story. However, I'm just a little bit confused on where it's going and what the characters are gonna do and how everything is gonna be solved because we've got a lot of issues at this point in the book. And that was everything for this review, so if you're at the fifth wave and haven't read this one yet, I would suggest picking it up. It's not a horrible continuation, though I may have made it seem like it. It's honestly not bad. I really liked the pace of it, and overall, I would recommend it if you liked the first one. So we are done. Thank you for watching this video, everyone. If you enjoyed this, I don't know why I'm starting that sentence, because I never tell you to subscribe to me or like my videos. I will see you next time. Thank you, Penguin, for sending me this copy for review. Goodbye, everyone!